most founders, when they're trying to get those first 10 customers or whatever, are very keen to go out there and show customers, a demo of the product. Like, hey, we're solving this problem. Take a look at the product. Now, given the context of what you just described about a new category and something like you're creating here, were you initially doing the same thing? Were you going out and trying to get demos, or were you taking that approach that you described in terms of, hey, this is how things are done today. If you think about it differently, this is how it could be 10x better. Like, was that part of your pitch, or is that something that evolved after you found people weren't interested in just jumping to demos?
There are two kinds of products, right? One is, the first time I saw EchoSign, I was like, oh my God, like, why am I signing anything that's not coming in through email, right? Like, it's a no-brainer after you see it. Conceptually, it's very hard to actually explain to somebody who's never seen an e-signature product. On the other hand, even to this day, right? Like, imagine I asked you to demo me Snowflake or Kubernetes or EC2 or S3. What are you going to demo? You're going to run a SQL query and it comes back. Well, I can do that on SQLite on my desktop.
Right.
Maybe I can even do it faster.
Yeah.
I think people make a mistake. They don't know what they are selling, as in they don't know what is a core value proposition they're selling. Your demo, your slides, and your story are in service of the problem that you're solving, right? So if I sign a lot of contracts every day, my pain is signing. But a lot of people in procurement don't sign contracts, they just send them out. Their problem is sending, not signing. So showing them an e-signature demo actually, weirdly enough, won't do anything for you. In our case, what do people care about? So there is a demo that's very powerful from Skyflow, but it shows that if I take a data pipeline or your application built using conventional, building blocks, if you don't use Skyflow, how PII and card numbers and SSNs can end up everywhere. And then I can show you how, if you use Skyflow, you can control it. You can only have it visible to the right people at the time. I can show you how some of the data is stored in Germany, some in India, and some in the US. I can show you how that happens with a single API click. But for me to show those things that I'm describing to you, if I hadn't set the context, they wouldn't look magical. They would look like, yeah, sure. You're telling me you can store data in India? Well, I can do that using Google Drive, right? So figuring out what's the problem that the customer has. So I'll give two examples. Some of our customers have a data residency problem, as in you are a large payments company or you're a large SaaS company. You've been selling your CRM or payments product globally. Suddenly, Frankfurt, Germany has a data residency regulation, or Ireland, or India, or Nigeria. You can no longer sell your product there, or people can't use it there. Well, now you have a very specific problem. How do I make sure I can continue to do business in Europe or start doing business in Europe? Well, then the problem is framed as, hey, if you do it the traditional way, you would end up replicating all of your AWS infrastructure in another country and cost you $20 million a year. With Skyflow, it's as simple as like spinning up, vaults in two regions, and in like 6 minutes, you can be actually up and running. That's magical to someone who thought data residency was a 2-year problem, where I can show it to them that it's now a 2-month problem at best. On the other hand, if I showed the exact same thing to someone who doesn't do business globally, a lot of companies are US centric, showing them a data residency demo is like basically has no effect on them. It's like showing Gucci purses to me, right? I don't buy them. They look like just leather bags to me. On the other hand, if I'm dealing with an American customer and they are trying to do more with their customers, except they need to partner with another company and do data sharing to, say, roll out a new payments company or a loyalty card or what have you, For them, the magic is in sharing data across organizational boundaries without actually revealing the data. And they will get blown away by that. And so we have to figure out what we are solving for what customer. Again, go back 20 years ago, if you're selling BEA, or 15 years ago, you're selling MongoDB. If you're selling to the catalog guy, you show them catalog search. If you're selling it to a supply chain person, you show them supply chain visibility. So that's how we basically decide when and how to show what part of the product.
Many founders in those early days are going out and talking to anybody and everybody, and just anybody who will listen. I'll talk to you and tell you about my business and my product. How were you able to narrow down your ICP and figure out where you were going to focus on, which use cases you were going to pick? Obviously, as you said, it's a horizontal product, but you had to start somewhere. So how did you make those decisions and figure that out?
So again, there's two ways to do it. One is, if I had just started with this problem anew, because I had only had a technical innovation in mind, then I would have to do some sort of breadth first search, right? And that's what YC tells you, like, hey, go talk to 100 customers. Let them tell you why they need this product. And I think that's very viable strategy, and you should do that if that's where you are. In my case, I had a thesis. I knew what the problems were. I had to narrow down, like, hey, should I focus on SaaS companies or health companies or fintech companies? So all I did was called up three of each, and very soon found out who is most interested, and then just prioritized. Some of it was frankly random. For example, should we do more SaaS data residency or more PCI like stuff for fintech companies, was a toss up, and I picked based on my personal preference or where I had the most network to begin with.
And did they turn out to be the right hunches?
Yeah, one of my learnings after investing in, I think, over 67 companies now, is that we read a lot about pivots, and they are glorious stories when they happen. But for every Slack, there is 100 dead Slacks and 20 successful Salesforce and Zendesk. And companies like Salesforce and MongoDB and Snowflake basically can't pivot. And if you try to pivot, you're going to end up killing the company. So you better have a very clear idea. If you saw our seed deck, word by word, 4 years later, we built the exact same product. We target the exact same customers in the exact right order. And it's not because, we are somehow geniuses. It's because we frustratingly waited 10 years to start the company. So we had done the work. If we hadn't done the work, instead of doing the work 10 years prior, I would add another 2 to 3 years to my journey if we had to basically start the product now.